Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Darren Perkins. I want to be briefing you today on the U.S. Department of Treasury Financial Management Services System. Hope everybody had a good lunch today. Nice and full, because it's going to take a little while. So, just figured I'd come up here and then talk to you a little bit about my life and where I started and all that, but I'd kind of left that part out because it can involve the glare in my daddy's eye or something like that. So I just figured I'd just not go with that story. Anyway, I've been teaching for over 26 years now, 15 years in the military, 1 year teaching handicapped adults, and another 10 years plus now in DeCa now I've been teaching. Okay? Today we're going to be covering the paper check conversion over-the-counter system, which is also known as PCC/OTC. And we're also going to be teaching the electronic verification and imaging system service. Okay? Just to let y'all know, Elvis isn't in the building right now, so we'll talk more about him here in a little bit. Moving on up into the program here, let's talk a little bit more about this paper check conversion, the PCC/OTC system. Okay, paper check conversion is exactly what it is. Customer hands you the check. You convert it into an electronic image. So what you're going to do is you're going to take this check here and you're going to insert it into the scanner face down with the lock to your left while you put it in. We went and talked to Dr. Evil, and he decided to give us some money back out of the Bosnian missile crisis. So he wrote me a check for $1 million.
Nice.
Anyway, this scanner, when you send it through, it's going to read this metallic ink recognition code that goes across the bottom of your check. That code is basically your checking account and your routing number in your bank. What that does is that magnetic ink reader sends a message off to the Federal Reserve Bank. In turn, the Federal Reserve Bank sends a note back to Elvis or PCC/OTC, the reader, scanner, telling it to go ahead and finish processing that check. So when the check comes out, you just give it back to the customer, and you have your electronic image of that check. Now let's go into where Elvis comes into play. Well, at the end of the night, when you get all your paperwork done and all that, you got everything set up to run in the day, is when Elvis receives all this information. All the transactions get sent out at once. And then all the information is loaded up into Elvis. That's where it falls into play. Now under Elvis, it stores this stuff. Coming down here to the next one, it's a massive storage database. You can imagine if you process 250 checks a day, and all of DeCa is sending those checks over there, and this must be a massive computer to hold that much data. Something else that you can do with the electronic check verification system is you can print out or pull up and print out the SF-215 deposit tickets and the SF-5515s, the debit tickets, if they take anything out of your account or putting stuff into your account. Before cards came along, we had to do it all manually on a typewriter. Type up your SF-215s for the checks, all your stuff like that. Now it's all electronic. You can pull up that information. You can look for a specific check. You can pull up that check, take a great big picture of it, like a full-size picture of the check, front and back. That way if the customer has any problems, you can show it to them. Also, some of the other areas, information that it provides to you, it gives you the Social Security number if they're locked out of the system. The customer comes up to your window and starts banging on your window and says, hey, you know, I tried to write a check out there and they won't let me write a check. What's up? Well, you're able to go into Elvis, put that sponsor's social into the system, and what it'll do is it'll spit out all the information. You can print it out. You can show them exactly what check it was that bounced. You can give them a picture of it. They'll know exactly. Well, they already know before they come to the window. All you're doing is just reconfirming what they already knew. Okay? Anybody have any questions so far on what we're covering? Okay. Now, to get access to this Elvis, it takes the store director or the store administrator's approval, and you can only have up to 4 people total that have access to that database. All right. Now, he sends his request through Elvis at DeCa.mil, and then in turn that there goes up to the Federal Reserve Bank, and the Federal Reserve Bank will send each individual person their own sign-in code so they can access that program. And then you'll be ready to change your password every 90 days, and they're pretty picky with the passwords, especially getting into that big database. Okay? Any questions? Kind of moving on a little quick here. Just a second. We'll just take a quick recap of everything we talked about. We talked about the U.S. Treasury and the Financial Management Services System. We talked about the paper check conversion system, the PCC-OTC. We talked about the magnetic ink readers, the Federal Reserve Bank, and how Elvis comes into play. We also talked a little bit more about Elvis and how big this database must be. And also how the biggest part is retrieving the 215s and the 5515s. That information there is what validates your 707 balancing every day. We also talked about some of the other information you can pull up, especially when you got that customer that's up there at your window, just banging on the counter. We also talked about who can get access and who authorizes access. Does anybody have any questions? Yes, ma'am.
When you first scan the check and it goes into the printer and it goes to the Federal Reserve, is that when and it comes back and it says it okay? Do they actually take the money out of the account there?
No, ma'am, they do not. All that is just with the Federal Reserve Bank. All it does is say, yep, this Social Security number is good. And it just sends that information back to you. It just lets you finish processing the check at that time. When the system runs end of day at the end of the night, that's when it physically goes out and tries to grab that money out of the individual account.
So do we have like less bounce checks now since the system's gone into place?
Yes, ma'am. Seems like we have been having less bounce checks. Anybody else? Sir?
That'll let you know also when it goes through there if an account's flagged too, right? If they've had a bad check.
Yes, yes.
Automatically now?
Yeah.
Or you used to have to look before?
Yeah, that's when the customer will usually come up banging on your window saying, hey,
Right.
yeah, how come I can't write a check at your store? Well, they're going to find out they can't write a check at no DeCa stores. Because now we went back to this system where they can actually be denied writing checks permanently. Any other questions? Okay, thank you all for your time. Have a great day.